Rồi thầy đến rồi tụi con. Bây giờ tụi con chắp tay lại. Chắp tay lại. Bây giờ lặp theo sư cô nha. Nam Mô A Di Đà Phật. Chúng con xin kính chào thầy. Nam Mô A Di Đà Phật. Dạ chúng con kính thỉnh thầy hướng dẫn các em ạ.
Namo Shakyamuni Buddha, Namo Amitabha Buddha, dear respected teachers, dear friends. It's nice to see you all here this morning, and so many of you as well. Just in case if you didn't have the chance to see me around, or you've never known me before, my name is Thầy Tạng, or you can also call me Brother Andy, and I have the responsibility of sharing with you something about the Dharma today. And I would like to begin by telling you a story. So, when I was very young, I became a monk at the age of 3, and I didn't have so much time with my mom or my dad. Most of my life was spent in a monastery, so that meant I had some memories with my mom, some memories with my dad, but the memories that I had in the temple were more than the memories that I had at home. But there is one memory that happened to cross my mind the other day when I was thinking about what to share with you guys today. And that was the memory of me and my mother going to the supermarket. So I remember when I was younger, it probably happened a few times. My mom went to the supermarket, usually by herself, not with my dad. And this one time I tagged along, following my mom to the supermarket. And I think it was Superstore or something like that. I'm not sure. We probably don't have Superstore in the US. It's like a Canadian grocery store. It's pretty big too. Do we have Walmart here in the US? Yeah, it's something like a Walmart, but like a super Walmart or something like that. So there's a lot of stuff, and mostly food. So I think it was at Superstore. And I was following my mom, and as I was walking through the store, I was very young at that time, and the store seemed pretty huge to me. You know, for a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old, when you're walking through a store, you're barely as tall as the first level of the shelves at the grocery store. So there I am, following my mom. My mom is pushing her cart, buying food, and then somehow I lost my mom. I lost my mom. Has this ever happened to you guys before? Please raise your hand if it has ever happened to you. So what did you guys do when you lost your mom? Please raise your hand and yeah. Oh yes, same thing with me, but it was the opposite around. I started crying first, and then I went to find the cashier, the person that was like a helper in the store, and you know, at first, the very first thing I did was, you know, mẹ, you know, mẹ ơi, mẹ, and I called out my mom to try to find where she was, and I don't know where my mom went. It was strange because somehow I had been left behind. Maybe it was because I was looking at something that was attractive on the shelf, and I had lost my mother. So as I was crying and trying to see where my mom is, I remember one time not being able to find her. So I did the same thing you did. I went to one of the helpers in the store, specifically the cashier. And the cashier, saw this dressed little child crying and wanted to offer me help. So she helped by speaking on the intercom, I believe, the speaker thing in the store that they used to make announcements with. She was like, it's okay, we'll help you find your mom again. What's your mom's name? And then I said, oh, my mom's name is Kim Tuit Lee. And then she said on the intercom, hello, Miss Kim Tuit Lee, your child is here waiting for you. And please come and take your child, or something along the lines of that. So this is one of the memories I had going to the supermarket with my mom. And I have another memory as well. The same thing happened. I don't know why I get lost in supermarkets so many times, but this time I heard my mom call back when I said, "Mẹ." She said, "Ơi." And this was when I heard her respond to me right away, unlike the first time where I couldn't find her. And once the cashier had found my mom came to the cashier, and then she saw me crying. She held me in her hands and she said, "Mẹ đây con đừng khóc nữa, mẹ thương mẹ đây, đừng khóc nữa." Did your mom do that to you when she found you? If you've ever been lost in the supermarket? Yeah. She comforts you right away, right? So when we feel lost, we call out our mother's name, because our mother is very dear to us. Our mother is our place of safety. Our mother is our place of refuge. So in the practice, similarly, we are kind of all little people who are walking around following our mother in the supermarket. And the supermarket is the life that we... There are many, many things in the supermarket, just as there are many things in life of all different sorts of sizes, shapes, and colors, things that maybe we haven't seen before. And sometimes we're mindful and we follow our mom, we follow our mother, then we know where to go and we know where she is. But sometimes we get distracted. Maybe we see a toy that we like, maybe we see something that we want, we leave our mother, and our mother goes somewhere to buy something else. And when we find that we've lost our mother, we start to freak out. And that is when we call our mother's name. And so one of the reasons why I recite the name of the Buddha, or I take refuge in the Buddha, is because I feel like the Buddha is like my parent, my mother or my father, a place who I feel safe and feel like I can take refuge in. When I was younger, sometimes when I had the feeling that no one else could understand me, or even if I did tell people what I wanted to tell them, they wouldn't be able to understand me, one thing that I would do is I would go up to the Buddha hall and climb up onto the platform where the Buddha statue was, and I would hug one of his lotus petals and cry. And that was one of the ways that I helped alleviate my suffering or my distress as a child. And the reason why I felt so relieved when I came to the Buddha is because when you look at the Buddha, he's always smiling. He's always smiling. And when you say something to the Buddha just listens and listens with his compassion. So that really helped me when I was little. To be able to see the image of the Buddha, to be able to take refuge in the Buddha. And that's why the Buddha is such a close image to me. And in this life, full of many, many things, sometimes we get lost. We get lost in the many shapes, sizes, and colors of life. Sometimes we get lost in our own world as well. Maybe it is sadness, maybe it's distress, maybe it's how about you guys help me out? What are some things we get lost with in life, or we get lost in, that are not necessarily good? Sadness, depression, anyone else? Something, yeah? Stress, anger. Someone said Inside Out. I just saw the second movie the other day, but I didn't watch the whole thing, but I saw some of it. Yeah? Huh? Anxiety, the past, the future, the present. Yes, you can also be lost in the present too, if you don't know how to live in the present properly. Anyone else? In our fears. Yeah. Could get lost in your joy as well. Yeah. So in this supermarket of life, sometimes we can get lost. And a good thing to do when we are lost is always to find our mother again. And whenever we chant the name of the Buddha, whenever we say Namo A Di Đà Phật, it is a chance for us to remind ourselves that we still have a place of refuge, that we're not lost, that the Buddha is still there for us. Whenever we chant with our whole heart, as long as we do it with our whole heart, with our single-mindedness, the Buddha already replies to us. Because his awakened nature, his compassion, his kindness, his patience, his fearlessness, his courage is already existent inside of us. So, when I recite the Buddha's name, when I think of the Buddha, there's a sense of protection, there's a sense of safety, there's a sense of there's a sense of reliance that I feel like I can trust in the Buddha. And I've been saying the word Buddha a lot, but can someone here define the word Buddha for me? The enlightened one? Yeah. Enlightened, and another word for a teacher? Yes? A leader? Anyone else? Compassionate? Our parents are a Buddha. They, in their best, try to continue to embody the love and compassion of a Buddha. We see that our parents, they love us most of the time. They love us unconditionally. And from the bottom of their hearts, their love for us is unconditional. Sometimes there are conditions, but that's just on the surface, right? It looks like there's a deal on the surface, but actually, from the bottom of their hearts, that love is unconditional. But when the love comes from the Buddha, that love is unconditional as well. All embracing and loving and patient, waiting for us to transform, to become better. So, those are some qualities that a Buddha has. The Buddha means the enlightened one, the awakened one, the compassionate one, and these are all qualities that we have within ourselves. That's why this morning, our venerable teacher said, invited everyone to join their palms and say, Sen Búp xin tặng người một vị Bụt tương lai. I offer this lotus to you, a Buddha to be. And that means that we can all become Buddhas. Each time that we recite the Buddha's name, although on the surface it might seem like it's very simple, it might seem like it's very easy, but in fact, it is very, very, not only is it helpful, but it is also much, much deeper and practical than we think it is. If we have the Buddha inside of us, if we always are mindful of the Buddha, if we always are seeking the Buddha, in other words, seeking refuge, reinstating those qualities of kindness, compassion, patience, and love inside of us, then that will impact our lives greatly. Because often we know that we should be kind. We know that we should be patient. We know that we shouldn't let our anger get the best of us. We know that sadness is fleeting and sadness is not permanent. However, without being mindful of the Buddha, without being mindful of our capacity to overcome those things, we can often get lost in those things. And we can often suffer greatly because we forget the Buddha. So Niệm Phật means to be mindful of the Buddha. Being mindful of the Buddha means being present and being there. Present and there for the Buddha also within yourself. Present and there to recall those qualities, which we all have. There have been so many times in my practice as a monastic where even though I chant every single day, I recite scriptures, always reminding me that I should be patient, I should be tolerant. My goal is to help all beings, but sometimes in moments where we are forgetful, where we're not mindful of the Buddha, we often forget and we make mistakes. And it's okay to make mistakes, right? But each time we make a mistake, we still have the chance, or we still have the ability to try harder and to try again. Niệm Phật. Niệm means to remember. Nhớ nghĩ. Also, Niệm Phật also has the general meaning of like calling out the Buddha's name. And calling out the Buddha's name is also another way to help us remind ourselves of the Buddha's qualities. Just as if we say mother. When we say mother, if we have a good relationship with our mother, just the word mother itself can already bring a lot of warmth and safety and happiness to us. We can already taste the sweet love of our mother when we say the word mother, right? And so when we say the Buddha's name, when we recite the Buddha's name, it can also give us that quality. If we learn about the Buddha more, and we learn about what kind of person the Buddha was, how he lived, and we learn about his teachings and his insights, then we realize how wonderful of a human being the Buddha was. And once we understand who the Buddha is as a person, then when we think of the Buddha, it is just like thinking of our mother, just like thinking of our father. We know how much our father, how much love our father has. We know how much love our mother has for us. In our lives, we have few places of refuge. And it could be different from person to person. But generally, commonly, we take refuge at home in our mother and father, right? And when we go to school, we take refuge in our teachers because they teach us the things that we need to know, the knowledge that can carry us through life. That is much needed. Sometimes it might be boring in school and you think, wow, when am I ever going to use all this information? But actually, the things that they teach us are very important. We need to be up to date, and we need to be on the same level of understanding with others in order to succeed in life. And just as if in school, we need to be updated in science, we need to be updated in mathematics, we need to be updated in language and culture, in our way of life, we need to also be updated and have the same understanding of others, the same compassion, the same forgivingness, the same patience as well. So we have in life our mother and father as a place of refuge, and also our teachers as a place of refuge. What do we learn from our mother and father? We learn how to love. We learn love. And they're the ones that teach us first what love is, what the taste of love is. And we learn from our teachers at school information that is needed in life. Math, science. If at school we can learn from our teacher how to solve a problem, the Buddha can deliver us the same thing. He can deliver to us formulas on how to overcome our suffering, how to solve our problems. This is all contained within the teachings of the Buddha. Yeah. Just like how our mother shows us love, the first person to show us what love is our mother. And we learn love from our mother. We also can learn the quality of compassion from the Buddha and find that quality of compassion within us. If we have a mother, if we have a father, and we're still fortunate to have a mother and father, but we overlook that fact. Like I said before, if we are forgetful, is thak. Thak is you lose. Thak nim means you lose your mindfulness. If we're forgetful, if we are forgetful of just like I'm forgetful right now. I lost track of where I was. But at least I am still mindful, so it's okay. If we're forgetful that we have those places of refuge, if we have a mother, if we have a father, someone as sweet and caring as our mother, someone as dependable and courageous as our father, but we don't take refuge in them, then it's a great pity. There we go. If we have a teacher who is very knowledgeable, and we go to school, but we goof off and we don't try our best to do our best in school, to learn what we can from our teachers, to take that chance to learn, then it's such a pity. It's like me, when I went to school, I was really, really bad at math. Math was my worst subject. And I was a little better in language arts. I was a little better in social studies, because I like those things more. But sometimes, now that I've graduated, I wish that I would have tried a little bit more in school, even if I didn't really like it that much. Because my teachers had a lot of knowledge to give me. And now that I'm out of school, honestly, sometimes I don't even remember my times tables. Back then in school, we had calculators, and you could use your calculator to do simple math, do complicated math. But now I wish that I would have tried my best to be more mindful at school and to retain that information more. So if we have a place of refuge like our mother and our father, like our teachers, and we don't take refuge in them, if we are forgetful and we don't cherish the fact that they are there, then it's a great pity. We are very fortunate because not only do we have our mother and our father, our teachers as a place of refuge, but we also have the Buddha. That is a third place of refuge. And the Buddha not only serves as a teacher, he is also like a mother and a father as well. Our mother and father have given us this physical body, but the Buddha gives us the body of enlightenment. He teaches us the way to live. He gives us the body of happiness. He allows us to touch what true happiness really is. He gives us a body that is free from the sicknesses of the mind. Our mother and father have given us this body that is very healthy, free from sicknesses, complete with all of our faculties, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, our hands and feet. And the Buddha has also given us a similar kind of body as well. This body that is the body of the mind, free from sicknesses. So taking refuge is something that we have to constantly remind ourselves of. That's why we recite the Buddha's name, in order to constantly remind ourselves that the Buddha is our place of refuge. And in turn, the Buddha said that we all one day will become Buddhas as well. So taking refuge in the Buddha also has an alternative meaning, which is taking refuge in the capacity of being a Buddha in each and every one of us. The Buddha Amitabha, Đức Phật A Di Đà, his name has three meanings, main meanings: vô lượng quang, vô lượng thọ, and vô lượng công đức. Vô lượng quang is limitless, boundless light. Vô lượng thọ is limitless, boundless life. And vô lượng công đức is limitless or boundless merits. And as I shared this morning with the younger friends, we can also embody these qualities with our friends around us. We embrace everyone with our light of kindness. We embrace everyone with our patience. We embrace everyone with our care. And if we open up our hearts and we span enough this meditation of embracing everyone within our hearts, then our heart will be very, very big and can contain the whole universe, the whole cosmos. We are no longer confined in this small body. Our hearts and minds are no longer confined in this small body. And we take refuge in the Buddha because the Buddha is a teacher who is very rare in the world. It is very rare to find a Buddha, a fully awakened one, an enlightened one, who has perfected all of his qualities and traits of goodness and has transformed all of his negative traits and qualities. So how do you take refuge in the Buddha? When you're angry, when you're feeling angry, how do you take refuge in the Buddha? Would anyone like to share? When you're angry, how would you take refuge in the Buddha? Yeah. Namo Tây Phương Cực Lạc Thế Giới Đại Từ Đại Bi A Di Đà Phật. Yeah, when you get scared at night, longer. Oh, wow. Yeah. You guys hear that? So basically, it's a longer formula for reciting the Buddha's name. We can find the Buddha outside of us, but we can also find the Buddha that is inside of us. So when we are feeling sadness, when we are feeling any kind of negative emotion, or something that is submerging us, something that is overwhelming, then we can take refuge in the Buddha's name. And we recite Namo A Di Đà Phật, or we recite Namo A Di Đà Phật with a calm, still, and serene mind. We use the name of the Buddha in order to make our minds more calm, more still, and more serene. Invoking the qualities of the Buddha conditions a mental space in our mind where there's like a safe zone, there's like a home in our mind for us to be able to feel relief. And also taking refuge in the capacity to take care of that anger. When we're angry, often we get carried away by our anger.
when we are jealous, we often get carried away by our jealousy. That's because we lose mindfulness. When we lose mindfulness, we become completely engulfed by that seed of jealousy or anger. In our mind, in our heart, there's, this seed, which you can't really see. So there's a seed of jealousy and anger. It's always there, but sometimes it just doesn't show to the surface. But sometimes when things trigger these seeds, they come to the surface, right? And then if we're not careful, then this will be apparent in our mind. And we will be completely consumed by these thoughts of anger or jealousy or hatred. But there's also another seed, which is the seed of a Buddha inside of our mind. Now, if we take this seed and we bring it up to embrace this one, then we can help bring this seed back down. These both are potentials in our mind. Both of these are potentials in our mind. We can either make the decision to do one or do the other. And it takes training to be able to have control over your anger, to manage your anger, to manage or to see the way out of jealousy, to be able to see our sadness, our sorrow, to accept and embrace them. You can embrace them with your mindfulness, or in other words, use the Buddha's name to embrace that seed of anger, of jealousy, of sadness. The Buddha said that everything in this world is impermanent, right? And our feelings are the same. When you guys, sometimes when I feel angry, in that moment, I feel like there's nothing else. We're completely consumed by our anger. But actually, anger is not the only thing in our mind. And there's other seeds that are existent in our mind as well. Sometimes when we feel sad, when we are overwhelmed by this seed here, we forget that there's another seed inside of our mind, the seed of the Buddha. And we become overwhelmed by these negative seeds. And we might make decisions that are not helpful. For example, nowadays, many young friends, they suffer, and when they suffer, because they don't have a way out, because we're not able to learn the technique to take care of that suffering, it ends up in consumption, in doing drugs, hanging out with bad groups of people. Some people even take their own lives. And when someone does take their own life, it's in a moment of intense suffering, right? Or over many, many moments of intense suffering. So it is really important to be able to hold our mindfulness. Hold our mindfulness, and always to take refuge in the Buddha. Outside and also inside. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah. I chose to be a monk at 3. Because I was so young, I don't remember everything, but my mom told me that when my mom brought me to the temple, my grandma actually brought me to the temple, and sometimes my mom would come along. Whenever my grandma brought me home, then I would cry. But when I went to the temple, I was happy. And then many other things happened in my monastic life. It's a whole nother story. It's a really long story, so maybe I can tell you if you would like on another occasion. Anyone have any other question? What specific seed would this be to counter the seed of anger? Let's say if this was anger, what quality of the Buddha would you have to invoke? Yeah, compassion. Exactly. Right. And what if it was let's say, what if it was sorrow? What would you have to invoke? Yeah. Forgivingness? Yeah, forgivingness. The only way that we can feel liberated is if we do the forgiving ourselves, right? The choice is downright in our mind. The other person may act in any way, may do other things that we cannot control, but the one thing that we can control is ourselves. That's why Buddhism teaches us to work on ourselves a lot, to practice the Eightfold Path. Firstly, ourselves, to have right view, right thinking, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right diligence, right concentration, right mindfulness. And we work from ourselves. And when we work from ourselves, that is how we impact the people around us. It's like when you throw a stone into a river, then the stone falls into the river, but it creates ripples. So our practice also has a ripple effect. And if each and every one of us practiced, then we would create an environment that is beneficial and conducive to everyone's development of spiritual well-being, of happiness, of joy. So this is one technique to be able to transform our strong emotions. You can use the Buddha's name to embrace that emotion. For example, if you're feeling angry, don't say anything. Because during that point when you're angry and you're completely consumed by the flames of anger, you just end up hurting other people. And this is something that we have to remind ourselves constantly, again and again, that this is the way it is. But if we're forgetful, if we are not mindful that we have the capacity to not be angry as well, then we end up hurting the other person. The other person may have hurt us, but we have not hurt the other person in return yet. And if we do something to react in a rash way, the relationship will be broken from both sides. So during that moment, don't say anything. In your mind, you can recite Amitabha Buddha's name, or you can take some calm, deep breaths in order to guide yourself back to solidity. Go on a walk, do something else in order to invite that seed of mindfulness, invite that seed of a Buddha inside of you to arise and embrace that emotion. Anyone have any other questions? What are some difficulties that you guys have? Some difficulties that you guys have.
Dạ bà thầy, chắc cho mấy em đứng hơi a little bit tí xíu tại mấy em.
Yeah, you guys want to stand up for a bit?
Let's stand up, you guys. Stand up. Stand up.
How long have you guys been sitting? Have you guys been sitting? How long before I came here?
Rồi tụi con giơ tay lên nha. 2, 3. Raise your hand up. Okay. Rồi down. Rồi hai tay xuống nha. On the ground. On the ground, you guys. Okay. Rồi bây giờ con mời các tụi con xuống. Have a seat. Have a seat. Rồi con thỉnh thầy mà thầy.
And what happens if we don't have Niệm Phật in our mind? There are a couple different kinds of remembrances that the Buddha taught us to remember. Firstly is Niệm Phật. Second one is Niệm Pháp, remembrance of the Dharma. Third one is Niệm Tăng, remembrance of the Sangha. Niệm giới, remembrance of the precepts. Niệm thi, remembrance of giving, of generosity. And niệm thiêng. Niệm thiêng is seeing that other people are at a better place in life, or good things come from good actions. People are at a place of bliss and happiness from their own actions and their own hard work. Just like how a person who is a doctor has become a doctor because he studied very, very hard in medical school. And so beings like devas, chư thiên, are at their place because they have generated the amount of merits in order to be there. And because we all start at the same ground, a doctor starts as a normal person, we can also do just as they have done. So other than niệm Phật, there's niệm Pháp, niệm Tăng, niệm giới, niệm thí, niệm thiêng. Being mindful of the Dharma is always being mindful of the Buddha's teachings. What are the Buddha's teachings summarized? This is a classic. Can anyone share with me? Summarize the Buddha's teachings in 3 verses. We recited it this morning. 3 verses. Chư ác mạt tác. Not to do any evil thing, not to do any bad thing. Chúng thiện phụng hành. To do all good things. Tự tịnh kỳ ý. To keep our mind pure, calm. Thị chư Phật giáo is what all the Buddhas have taught us. So that's just, a basic breakdown of the Buddha's teachings. The Buddha's teachings is the way to help us live happily. How do we live happily? Don't do bad things. Do all good things. And niệm giới means to be mindful of the precepts. How many precepts do we have as a lay person? 5. And they're also called trainings, mindfulness trainings. Can anyone tell me what the 5 mindfulness trainings are, in short? The first training, no killing. The second training, no stealing. The third one, no sexual misconduct. And the 4th one, no intoxicants. Why do we have to keep these trainings? Why do we have to keep these trainings? So then we don't fall into suffering. It is a fence, a gate to protect us so that we don't fall into suffering. And we take these trainings because we understand that a lot of suffering in this world comes from people not practicing these trainings. There's so much harm and suffering brought about in this world because of killing, because of lying, because of sexual misconduct, because of stealing. So we show, if we keep these 5 precepts, that is our understanding. The Buddha is the one who is complete in both wisdom and compassion, understanding and love. So we understand that there's a lot of suffering in this world that comes from stealing, so we learn to give. And that's our way of showing love to the world, to make the world a better place. We understand that there's a lot of suffering in this world that comes from killing. That is why we protect life. And that is a way of showing love to the world, to make the world a better place. We understand there's a lot of broken families in the world because of sexual misconduct, because of cheating. And that's why we show our love to the world and to all those people who are important to us by being faithful. We understand that a lot of suffering is brought into the world by words, by unmindful speech, and that's why we show our love by only speaking words that are caring, that are kind. So it's a brief on remembrance of the Buddha, of the Dharma, of the Sangha, of giving, of precepts, and it's just a brief presentation to you. So we can all understand more about the things that the Buddha suggested that we be mindful of. So thank you for your listening. Thank you for your kindness. I didn't know that you guys were sitting here for a long time before, so I'm sorry if your legs are hurting. But once again, thank you for your listening, and I hope that you have a good time outside, having fun and playing.
Thỉnh Thầy, rồi bây giờ tụi con mình chắp tay lại nha. You want to say something to Thầy? To Thầy? Thank you ha. Cảm ơn Thầy. Rồi, dạ con kính thỉnh Thầy hướng dẫn mấy em hồi hướng luôn Thầy.
Okay, so dear friends, please join your palms together, and we will share the merits. Nguyện đem công đức này hướng về khắp tất cả đệ tử và chúng sanh đều trọn thành Phật đạo. All the things that we learned today, in the end, all that we hope is that all of us will become Buddhas. So remember, the things that I shared with you today, and hopefully it can be useful for you in your practice. Thank you, brothers and sisters.
Rồi, mời các em đứng lên để mình đưa Thầy xuống trái đường ha.